I remember those commercials saying, this is your brain on drugs, or the stoner in the chair that was just laying there and couldn't even function and had no friends. And, I'm someone that has always been perplexed by that, because I'm like, I'm a user of cannabis, daily user, and I have been habitually for 20 years now. And I've also accomplished a lot in my life. I have a very successful business. I'm educated. It never hindered my performance in any way.
Just so you know.
All right.
Yeah, we're live. Hello, everyone. People will come on, just so you know, it's a little bit, we're casual. If for some reason, something happens to your sound, you can just log out and use the link to log right back.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So, let me know if you can hear me.
That's okay. I love that are you outside at your place in Vegas?
I am, yes.
Okay, so tell me, Megan, how did you get into this industry while we're waiting for people to get on? You kind of heard my background, but how did you get into it?
So cannabis is something that I've always sort of had a relationship with, I guess, since high school.
Yeah.
And but like everyone, I recognize the stigma involved. I felt like I was doing something wrong and bad. I actually, in high school, was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I got put on whatever medication for it. And I had a lot of side effects with that medication. And I noticed that I basically got the same medicinal benefits from cannabis as this, doctor prescribed medication. And that's when I just started using cannabis instead of medicine. And I still, to this day, have not taken any prescription medication my entire adult life.
So many testimonials to this, Megan, because especially during this COVID stuff.
Right? No, right? Like I have my own theories about the endocannabinoid system and immunity, but we can talk about that later. So I recognized that it was kind of medicine from an early start. It was in college, actually, at the University of Wyoming, that I worked with Dr. Carl Hart. Have you heard of him?
Oh.
Okay, he's badass. He's got his PhD in neuropsychology, and basically has been taking volunteers and having them use cannabis and studying their cognitive functioning levels, physiological functions. And he's basically found that, these people are fine. And he's done TED Talks. He's debated Bill O'Reilly on this. You can Google it. He's a super good. He has a book out. I'm not in any way affiliated with the book, but it's called High Price. And it's a great book just about cannabis and how it shouldn't be classified as a Schedule I type substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I started really believing the science behind it.
Okay.
Sorry.
You said you believe the science behind it. That's where you met him.
Right. So I really just started believing in the science behind the molecules, and I got a master's in occupational therapy, and I noticed how little it was talked about in grad school in healthcare. And so after grad school, I didn't get into healthcare at all. I started selling pharmaceutical molecules, even though I wouldn't take them, even though I was a hypocrite that was completely using cannabis on the side. And at some point, the cannabis industry became recreational here, and I've been watching it grow in Colorado over the years. And I was like, at some point I'll probably get into this industry. And an opportunity came to get into sales for a company, and I took it and ran. I said bye-bye to pharmaceutical sales, and it's been awesome. I love it. Yeah.
I love it. Well, for anybody listening that doesn't know, Megan and I went to high school together. And so I think this is very ironic. And it's funny what you paint the picture of, for people in high school, or what you imagine somebody being. And I'll tell you, as soon as I also had the opportunity or saw the opportunity to get into the market or into the industry, I jumped. I jumped because I don't just know, I know this. All of our problems when it comes to our health and wellness, to our environment, to our pollution, our sustainability, our supply chains, all of it. And so I'm very, very passionate about it. So tell me about your company that you're working for now.
Cannavative Group. Cannavative is one of the original medical licenses in Reno. Been around since 2014. It was actually founded by a doctor, Dr. Scott Rye, who, again, was sort of the same as me, was skeptical of cannabis. He had patients wanting him to prescribe that as a form of medicine, and he was like, no, I won't do that. Until one day he remembers, and I'd love to share a little video that he explains this all with you.
Yeah, if you want later, we can either share it or you can share screen. It's really easy, or we can put the link and share it, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I can dredge it up because we actually were just up in Reno having him record this for us. So telling the story of Cannavative is a great story. So anyway, so there was a patient who he ended up prescribing cannabis for and saw the medical benefits and then wanted to get involved in a company when it was becoming medical in Nevada. And that's how Cannavative started. And I love this company. We're a small group of very passionate cannabis people, and we are mostly an extractions company, so we do deal entirely with the THC molecule. So we're exclusively in Nevada. It's federally illegal still, so you can't ship out of state. And yeah, I love leading the team that I have at Cannavative. I've got I do the sales and marketing. I started with just myself, and over the past year and a half, I've been able to hire a whole team and them. And it's, I'm looking forward to the future. We've got some great strategic partners too at Cannavative. We've got Bang Chocolate, which is 8-time, Canada's Cup winning chocolate. I love working for that group. Jamie Pearson is the CEO, and she was Dope Magazine's Woman of the Year 2018. And they're all female leadership group, and it's beautiful chocolate. Actually, can I show packaging? Is that allowed? I actually have. This is their. It's really pretty, very feminine, pretty packaging. Anyway,
I love it.
And then also we do. I think I'm wearing the hat. It's Dom Pen.
Yeah.
So Dom Pen is a California brand of disposable cartridge. They also have Ratio CBD THC ones. And so we're their strategic partner in Nevada. And we've got another company, a Colorado company that I think we're literally signing documents about it today, but very soon we'll have that also. So I've got one of the biggest brand portfolios in the state. We're in 95% of the dispensaries in Nevada. We're one of the oldest, LeafLink, we were the biggest brand in Nevada last year. And it was very exciting to take that team and take it from kind of nothing, where they didn't even have a sales presence, to what it is today.
Awesome. Okay, so you said a couple things that I want to point out, because the more and more that I'm in this industry, and I've never really dealt with inclusion and diversity until now. And I feel like more and more the plant is being recognized by more and more women. And somebody said a while back, why wouldn't it be? It's a female plant, right? It needs female representation. And so you said something a couple of times in your presentation just now, like you called the packaging very feminine. You called out she's a female entrepreneur and female business owner. And I want to give a shout out to all the ladies out there that are in the industry, because 9 out of 10 times when I'm at an event, I'm one of maybe a handful of women amongst hundreds of men, right? And so I love that you're in this industry as a woman, and I have to give you props for all your success. It's pretty exciting to see, Megan. It's fun.
Thank you, Mandy. That is awesome. I really honestly appreciate that. And yeah, and if you haven't noticed, I mean, my Instagram handle, which, please feel free to follow me if you're not, is Main. What's that?
Spell it for me real quick and I'll share it.
Mainstream Mary Jane. It's pretty just like it is. MANAIN. Yeah. I'm like, can I spell it?
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane, yeah. And I'm very, very much about the female advocacy in this industry. I've dealt with, that was something that to joining this industry really felt. And even today there's, I'm a sales director, and I'll go in meetings, and it's generally me and 5 guys, because we're a very small little company too. And so they're always like, little girl, where's your team? Where's your decision maker? How are we going to get this meeting done? And it's like, right here, baby. So I definitely see that. And it's something that the other side of it is in Las Vegas. I'm involved in Women Grow. the one thing that's made me so passionate about this industry is I do, even though, we're very competitive with our different brands, the female brand reps of this town we've embraced each other, and we've really come together and support one another in a way that, I was just at a happy hour on Friday night with probably 15 female cannabis reps in this town. And even though we all are competitive, like I said, beyond that is strength in our numbers and, just supporting one another. And I truly believe in that. And, and that's one of the reasons that I'm so happy that I'm here supporting you, someone that I, went to high school with. And also, a female in cannabis. Like, I'm all about that.
Absolutely. And from small town Laramie, Wyoming, would you have ever thought you were going to be here in life?
No. It is so crazy. But, if I think about it, I'm like, I'm basically doing the same stuff now that I was doing in high school. It's just on a much broader scale. And it's something that now is even getting, scientific backing to support the medicinal side of it. And that's really what I believe in. And that's what I'm about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and okay, so what have you learned? What was your aha moment? Like I ask all the time. For me, it was just this like aha moment that we've had this plant for our entire lives, and every problem that we as a country or a globe, right, and worldwide are battling can be solved with cannabis. Pretty much every single problem, right? I shouldn't say. But it's
no. I mean, honestly, you're basically right. I think for me, having kind of a medical background, was learning about the endocannabinoid system. Our bodies literally have receptors, here's the receptor, here's the molecule. And literally our bodies are made for cannabis. There's not a, cigarette receptor. There's not a heroin receptor. It shouldn't be classified in the same those molecules.
Adderall or Xanax or antidepressants, right? Those are, our body isn't built for those naturally, right? And this is something, right, Megan, I hear all the time from people is, well, I'll just, and Megan, honestly, I went through this too. When I went to a doctor's office and I asked about being depressed, I trusted that the doctor knew what the answer was. Right. Or when I went to the doctor with stomach pains or celiac disease is a big one, right? That people are going for. And I trust all this time that the doctors know what they're doing, and they know because they went to school. What I didn't consider is what they didn't or weren't taught. Right. And just like computers, if I never found out that there was a computer and I was never told or I didn't ever look into it, right, at a young age, how would I know? Same with cannabis. If these doctors are, one, not taught about it, and two, told that it's been wrong due to law or whatever other reason, I believed that their answer was right. What I didn't know is what I didn't know. And as soon as I started to figure out all of these other like about our endocannabinoid system. Why aren't we taught that in elementary school? Why are we not educated? Why did I go through an entire program to teach me that people die from cannabis?
Right. Right. And there's actually no evidence to. I know. I mean, I actually had another aha moment for me. It was my first year in the industry, and it was MJ BizCon. Are you familiar with MJ BizCon? Biggest cannabis event. And I'm at a Dope Mag party, and the head of Dope Mag gets on the stage and he's like, they told us that cannabis was like an egg frying in a pan and it would rot our brains. They told us smokers would never amount to anything. He's like, I'm here to tell you they were wrong. And then they started throwing cannabis. I think I got clunked on the head with a pre-roll. And But that was a big, moment. I remember those commercials saying, this is your brain on drugs, or the stoner in the chair that was just laying there and couldn't even function and had no friends. And, I'm someone that has always been perplexed by that, because I'm like, I'm a user of cannabis, daily user, and I have been habitually for 20 years now. And I've also accomplished a lot in my life. I have a very successful business. I'm educated. It never hindered my performance in any way. And in fact, it helped me. It helped me study. It helped me relieve my symptoms of anxiety and depression so that I could function and have a normal life. So, if it can do that without side effects, why are we talking about it more?
Oh, right. Well, not only, yes. That was another one for me is an aha moment, right? When I was at an event and I was sitting next to somebody who is a physician and had been treating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patients for things that we're not getting treated for because there's no solution, right? There's no medicine that treats it. And yet he's doing it, and it's with cannabis, right? Why are we not? And so for me, I went at that moment from, nobody should smoke and I should quit and my kids can't, to there's a time and place and everybody needs it, right? Because it is. And it's not just on the consumption side, right? It's in every piece of our life. Why aren't we using hemp-based masks? If it's antimicrobial, why aren't we using them, right? Why aren't we educating our kids in school, just like sex education, about consumption of cannabis? Why aren't we teaching agriculture, the jobs, and look at your career now and what you've been able to do for yourself and for other people by building a team? Why aren't we talking about that? This is a career path for both of us that I don't ever plan to get out of. I have become so passionate about things that when I was 18, graduating high school, had somebody said, "Are you going to be living in Utah running a global hemp association focused on supply chains?" I would have been like, huh? Do what? No way. Not in Wyoming, but yeah. So
no, I feel you. And that, and you asked what my real aha moment was. And honestly, the best part, and I really discovered this working for Cannavative, because our products they're very, very quality medicinal. It's a pharmaceutical grade extraction lab. We grow everything in individual boutique pods. So we do everything the long, hard, slow way. But the stories that I've gotten to hear from people about, there's a product called RSO. Are you familiar with Rick Simpson oil?
I am. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we make a version of that, a full spectrum version. And I actually work with several foundations in town. Chemo Ogden is one of them, the Ogden Foundation, where I'm donating that product to cancer and AIDS patients in need. And, I have another dispensary owner, his wife, who has, stage 4 cancer, is using my RSO. Like, I'm giving that to her. And that's the sort of stuff that just makes, that's what, it makes me feel so good on the inside doing what I do every day. Like, I wake up every day so happy, so grateful to be in this industry, so completely enthralled by it, and getting to hear these stories from people. People come up to me all the time. Hey, your product, I've got COPD, but I started using your product and the doctor says all my levels are better now. They don't understand why. I told them it's because of the cannabis. They say that's insane, but I'm like, do what works for you. And at the end of the day, it's those stories that are what it's all about. Definitely.
Well, like I said, I've interviewed like 100 people now, about 100 people now. And I'm mind blown on nearly every single episode, there's a testimonial. How can we deny that it works? Now, where I struggle is, how do I know what to take when and how often, right? And I run into this, like, it's still cannabis. It's still illegal. It's still bad. I've been raised, my grandparents. I want my grandparents on this. When we talk aged people and lack of appetite and not ability to eat, all of these things, I know cannabis helps and can solve or help. How do you address those types of reservations in people? Especially in the people that our parents are age, our parents and older. How are you? yeah, what solutions are you finding?
no,
And
definitely.
do they find for when to come over?
I feel the same way. You know, my mother she has MS, and she's on a lot of, a lot of prescription pain medication, and I'm really trying to get her to use cannabis. She'll use it a little bit, but she says it makes her, dopey. I'm like, well, that's because you're taking the pain medication, Mom. But yeah, no, I say always just start. There are so many different ways that you can consume cannabis. That's one thing. I think people think about it and they think about, especially an older generation, smoking the doobie. Yeah, you don't have to smoke a doobie. We have capsules. We have sativa, indica, and RSO capsules. So it's simply swallowing a pill, which is a very familiar form. So I offer people solutions like that. People don't realize that there's tinctures out there, which generally those are just, in a basic like MCT, like a coconut oil, and it's a tea or a CBD molecule blend. And those are a great way. You can put a little bit of in your coffee, and maybe do start just with CBD, which is completely non-psychoreactive, and see, how your body's endocannabinoid system feels on that. The cool thing about CBD is it really it regulates you. So, your body's system wants to function in a very sort of normal regulatory way. And sometimes you get blocked in life. You might be blocked in pain. You might be blocked in anxiety. CBD kind of helps your body move through it. And via adding these molecules to your endocannabinoid system. And that's a great, like, I call it CBD kind of the gateway into cannabis.
That's where Dare messed up by calling cannabis the gateway. It's really just the CBD.
Right. Yes. Yeah, okay. No, and cannabis is not a gateway to any other substance. I really don't think.
No.
Maybe accidentally eating too much one day.
Sleep a lot. You may sleep in.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so what are some of the biggest reservations that you're seeing then in people? Like, why are they not wanting to try?
I think it's the stigma associated with it. Honestly, people think that they will become, it's a drug and drugs are bad and people on drugs do bad things and nobody wants to be a bad drug addict. I understand. I don't want to be a bad drug addict either. So really that's what Mainstream Mary Jane, my sort of online persona, is focused on. It's normalizing the plants. There have been some groups that have really done a great job of normalization. It should be as normal to, seeing someone with a glass of wine. And, although that's another comparison that I really don't like. The whole, it's just like alcohol. It's not necessarily like alcohol. I would never wake up in the morning and take a shot. And if I did,
it's like a vitamin B.
Right. But I will medicate in the morning because it's something that helps me function throughout my day. And it really is, learning about the entourage effect of the molecules. It's learning about terpenes. Terpenes, the essential oils that are in the cannabis plant, have such a huge effect on how you're going to feel with it. And, really working with, there's a lot of really educated budtenders out there. There's a lot of not educated budtenders out there also. But finding someone that you trust and has knowledge on the plant, because like I said, some of them are very, very passionate and do, that can help you find the right cannabis for you. Because I really do believe almost everyone can find some version of it that would work for them if they want it. And you know what, if you don't ever want to use cannabis, like, that's cool too. Absolutely do what's right for you at the end of the day.
Right. Well, Ashley just made a good comment. She said CBD is essential for her anxiety and focusing. And I think that it is. I can't tell you how many times I've sat around a table and somebody's upset, anxious, nervous, and somebody else says, hey, here's some CBD, or here, take a hit of this vape, right? And almost immediately, or within a short period of time, depending on how they're consuming, their entire body language changes. They're more relaxed, or they're able to focus or stay involved in conversation, or like I said, escape. Some people say it's for the escape, the mental escape. So what if it is? And again, I always battle, and I talk to my kids. I have teenagers. And so getting to the industry and living in Utah, right? If I have 10 pounds of hemp flower on my counter and I've got a group of kids coming over, you can't imagine the conversations we start.
I bet.
It's very interesting. It's entertaining, but it's yeah, it's undeniable that it works. And it's the more and more that I'm around my kids and the more I talk about it, the more real it is and the more normalized, we make it, the more common.
Right.
It's a conversation that comes up all the time. Right. And so my kids are starting to understand it.
I had a cute encounter. I don't know if you can see, I've got this it's a cannabis leaf on my necklace there.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine who's in the industry, her younger daughter, 6-7 years old, comes up to me and she goes, "Is that a business necklace?" I was like, "Yes, it is a business necklace." And she's like, "Yeah, my mom's got business socks."
That's perfect.
But that's cute that, she's being raised to think that this is business, and it is. I mean, it's business, and it also should be medicine.
Okay, so I want you to talk to me, because I'm adamant. I want my parents and my grandparents not on any one thing specific. I don't necessarily want to say, hey, they need CBD or CBG or tincture versus vape or THC versus not, right? But understanding my grandparents are in their late 90s, both still living at home.
Wow,
and right? What would you recommend they start with and why? What would your advice be to somebody with that?
Yeah, like that at that stage in life and also new to the substance, maybe tried it back in the swinging 60s. I would, honestly, again, something like an RSO capsule, that's probably going to have it's full spectrum. So you are getting THC, CBD, CBG, the full lineup of products. It's also in a measured dose. You know exactly what you're taking. It's a capsule, so it's a very familiar form. I'm sure that they know how to swallow a pill. And the benefits are going to be pain relief, anxiety reduction, mobility. You never know until you try it. And perhaps it's not the right thing. And that's okay too. I find a lot of people it's unfortunate with, we could talk about this too, the vape crisis, because I'm sure people have brought that up quite a bit.
Yes.
So I'm a huge proponent of cartridges, actually. I think it's a great, I'm a single mom. I was in the pharmaceutical industry, so I was traveling a lot for work, and, you don't want to make a hotel room smell like cannabis, but I do enjoy the inhaling the molecule. And it's funny, I was at the doctor recently and they're like, what drugs are you on? And I was like, just cannabis. And they're like, okay, we're going to give you a pulmonary function test, because they're like, you smoke a lot of cannabis, like your lungs are clearly bad. And I was like, no, they're not. CBD's actually been shown to actually clear your lungs of diseases, and I use I use cartridges and concentrates, honestly, for that reason, to keep my lungs clean. And so my FEV1, my forced expiratory volume in 1 second, was like off the charts good. So there you go, people. You don't, smoking cannabis doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have COPD at a young age. I'm, as we know, older. Well, we won't know how old I am.
Is 29. I've been 29 for a long time.
Good.
Real young.
Love that. But like cannabis keeps us young, right?
That's what I say. Yeah. My kids keep saying, Mom, stop saying you're 29. Like, all my friends are figuring it out, and it's getting weird because my daughter's getting ready to graduate high school. So it's like,
you started young.
No. Totally normal for Utah's age.
Yeah, no.
No,
I totally get it. No, go for it.
Ashley wanted to know, do we work with chemists to create new products, or are we the chemists? And just thinks that the whole process is cool. And no, Ashley, we are not the chemists. It is a craft, and it definitely comes down to a science when it comes to figuring out which extraction process is the best and how it's used, and keeping products clean, and using pharmaceutical grade labs makes a big difference when you're talking about the products that we're consuming. And when we talk vape crisis, this is what I wanted to bring up earlier, is yes, there's a lot of concern about vape, right? There's a lot about what goes into the product, but this is where it goes back to, where are you buying your product from? And understanding that you're buying from a company like Megan's, or a company that is certified and has different, GMP certifications and lab certifications. Because when you're buying from the street, what the cannabis plant is capable of doing by remediating the soil and sucking everything out, and then you extract it and put it into a vape cart. Now you've got the metals in the vape cart that were once in the soil or in the pesticides. And so understanding that and knowing where your product's coming from should be, in my opinion, more of a concern and a topic discussed rather than the way you're consuming it. Because I also see, the need for smoking. If somebody's having a panic attack, will have a much different result than if they're swallowing it or consuming it through a tincture, right?
And so more rapid with the lung.
Yeah, with the vape. And so understanding that you have that much more surface area that's absorbing your chemicals, and CBD and THC, I believe, or the cannabis plant is known to be used for inflammation. And so naturally, it's being used for respiratory infections and COVID. And I know over in Europe, they were prescribing it with a water bong for COVID symptoms.
Yeah.
And so it's not to say that the vape crisis needs to be solved by eliminating smoking or vaping. Makes no sense to me at all. However, I get the concern is we have to have a way to recall the product and understand where the product's coming from. And we as consumers need to be educated that it's really on us. Are you going to walk up to a little box store, on the side of the street that's selling opioids? Or, that's like buying heroin off the street versus an opioid.
Buying old moldy fruit on the side of the road and then getting sick off it and then saying, hey guys, don't eat fruit. Fruit's bad for you. No, just don't buy moldy old fruit off the side of the road. Know what you're getting. Sorry, I was looking down. I was pulling this up. I don't know. It's a COA, we call it. You can't really see it, but all of our products have to go through multiple labs of testing. We spend, $250 per test per product to test it. It's in a batch, but imagine how many products we do. We spend so much money on testing. And you know exactly what's in it. You know exactly what's not in it too. And, it says on this, there's no vitamin E acetate. There's no, we don't use any some cartridge companies do. They use fillers to just thin out their product to make it more vape, to give that big vape smoke. And really that's an issue. Also, PG, VG, MCT oil, even, those are all things that you want to avoid in your cartridge. However, if you get, I love our cartridges just because they're called Live Clear, and they're water clear. They have no fillers, no additives. It's 100% cannabis derived terpenes only. We do a steam distilled terpene distillation process. So it really maintains their profiles. And because it's a live product, we were one of the first companies to cultivate and extract in the same building. So our products are always incredibly fresh. That's another thing you want to watch out for. Some companies will buy, a bag of trim that's been sitting around for a year. And yeah, you can extract the THC off of that. What you're going to be missing is a lot of the terpenes, because terpenes are essential oils. So like a lavender is a terpene. It's called linalool. And that breaks down essential oils. They dissipate over time, especially in places like Nevada. It's a desert. So that's another thing you really want to watch for. You want a nice fresh product, cannabis derived terpenes, no fillers, and you want it to have a test result. And the thing that people don't realize is you can go to any legitimate dispensary, because I only sell 2 licensed dispensaries in the state of Nevada. And you can ask for a test result of any product and they will have it on file. If they don't, that'd be that would be grounds for them getting shut down if they didn't. So, definitely ask for it. Why not? Also, the label should have most of the stuff listed on it anyway, but, ask for the test result.
Well, and become familiar with it, right? They're bud tenders educate you, and they're there for a reason. And it's okay to go in and say, and it was funny. The first time I walked into a dispensary in Steamboat, Colorado, and this was a long time ago, right? So I walked in and the lady, can I help you? And I was like, yeah. And she said, why are you whispering? I was like, because I feel like I'm doing something wrong, right? I felt wrong. Go in. Those guys are used to it, you guys. Get in and ask for those lab results. Ask questions. Educate yourself. Take advantage of your time and opportunity in there. Every time you're in one of the buildings. So.
Yep, absolutely. I was the same way in Colorado. Like, I was like, are we allowed to call it, weed? They're like, yes, you can ask me by name. Because I always remembered, going to head shops when, like, in high school, and you had to refer to it as like a water pipe or whatever. Like, you couldn't say the word or, yeah. So I was so enthralled going into those dispensaries in Colorado when they opened in 2012. That was like the best.
That's
I guess
awesome.
I'm so good at work.
You said something that I hadn't thought about really. Not that I hadn't thought about, but we haven't discussed it very much. And that's when product sits for a long time. And that can be the biomass or the flower. It's losing its terpene profile, right? And that's also its smell, right? It's a lot of times. And so understanding, like Megan said, the value of fresh product and how fresh is that product? How long has it been sitting? And this is where it gets catchy, is how do we as an industry regulate that or identify that? How would somebody know how fresh product is? And when I say fresh, I mean like harvest to extraction or harvest to consumption, because there are two pieces there that I think affect the terpene profiles. Because once I get it into a part, my terpene profile doesn't change, right?
You really want to look at, and it records it on these test results, the moisture level. So cartridges don't have a moisture level, but yeah, so flower does, and any sort of concentrate product like that, that really gives you a clue as to how you want around a 10% moisture for flower, 10, 12, honestly. And that is something that we, just to be straight up and real, I live in a desert. It's Las Vegas, Nevada. So we do struggle with moisture levels like this. We would not have the same effect of loss of moisture if we were doing this in Miami. Like, let's just be real. But that said, we have, massive humidifiers. We do all of these things to keep our curing flower as it dries. It's got to dry, but we want to maintain moisture levels, and we try our best to do that. That's something that, if it was federally legal, it could probably be cultivated in sort of the best temperature regions, in the country, and then shipped around. And that would be something that would be just medicinally awesome for the plant and the industry in the future. We'll see.
Interesting. So speaking of, where do you see the industry going? Where do you think needs are to get it there?
I mean, there's one of the biggest issues right now, I think, is because it's federally illegal. Each state is its own little country or island, if you will. There's different regulations. I know it's crazy. You can't obviously move product in and out of state. But the variance in how the laws of growing, or even the way test results are, some places it's parts per billion, some places it's parts per million. We need standardization across the state lines, ultimately.
Well, and that's being so detrimental, right? Like you said, understanding that we could cultivate and dry in certain regions to provide a more stable, consistent product nationwide for people is a huge benefit to the industry and to the patients, so that they get a consistent product, or they have an understanding of volume, right? So that we can get volume out of product, so that it is almost like an R&D. We're not able to say this strain can help X number of people because we can't cultivate volume like that. And really, can you cultivate in big volume? I feel like everything really is a boutique grow still. It's not I shouldn't say still. I see people wanting to go big scale or grow big scale, and it's
See,
always
girl. 400,000 square. But yeah, no, you're right. Most are boutique still. I mean, compared to how this could be. And that's another thing, as this should be regulated. Obviously, it is a molecule. It's a psychoreactive molecule. So that should have some regulatory aspects of it. I do think that it's kind of insane that right now I can't bring someone a sample of my product. Like, that's technically illegal. Even if that person is over the age of 21 and I purchased the product through a licensed dispensary and pay all the taxes on it and it's a licensed product, I still can't give that to someone else technically. But as a pharmaceutical rep, I had a trunk full of pharmaceutical drugs that you could only get from a prescription from your doctor. They were samples. Now, and I could walk right into a doctor's office with my suitcase full of pills. And obviously, and a doctor would have to sign for that. I was obviously background checked and, credit checked and whatever checked to get that position. It does require a certain level of trust, but at the end of the day, I was able to do that. And why can't we have something like that? I have an agent card in this state. It's a federal background check. You have to get fingerprinted every year. Why can't I, having this agent card, give this to another person with an agent card, for the sake of, giving buyers and things testers of my product? Like, people need to try my stuff in order to sell it at the end of the day. And why is it so regulated that that's illegal?
Well, it's the same thing. That doctor can turn and give that prescription away. We can't do that, right? One person writes your card and then you have to go somewhere else to fill your prescription. And there's no communication really between the two in Utah. And I don't know how it is in Nevada, but they really don't work together or know what they're really prescribing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and doctors, very easily hand out samples of prescription medication. That's what you do as a pharmaceutical rep. You're giving away free samples, and this industry can't even say the word sample. Actually, it's illegal. So it's refer to it as a tester. It's not a sample, but it's like, come on, man.
Well, I was literally just talking about this today. So in Utah, our dispensaries are called pharmacies, and they're moved into and designed around the medical pharmacy, and they're comparing it to drugs, right? That why there has to be some sort of regulation on how much somebody can take, and that's kind of what we were talking about today, or that's their perception, right? And this aspect I hadn't even brought up, or this point I hadn't even brought up, that a pharmaceutical rep, like you said, can walk around with a suitcase full, but yet we can't sample or give out samples of prescriptions from these doctors, right? Or pharmacies. And they're not bud tenders in Utah. So it's agents, pharmacy agents.
Pharmacy agents. All right.
Oh. No, just I think it's going to take some standardization on the big, right? And
it's normalization, at the end of the, and that is, I don't know where this industry is headed. Is it going to go? Is it going to just get bought out by pharmaceutical companies? Is it going to get bought out by the liquor companies? People suspect both. I hope that it maintains, culture. Cannabis culture is so important. Understanding where we were. I mean, it was right after high school, was at, and I could say names and you'd know exactly who I was talking about, but I won't, which is funny. But, I was at a friend that I'd gone to high schools with house, and he had gotten narked out by another person. And I was over there, getting a little bit of herb, and I got so lucky that I didn't get in trouble because the cops came with, it was raided with guns and things like that. A guy I dated right after high school, he had gone on the 3 strikes you're out situation in Wyoming. He got caught with like a paraphernalia, like just a pipe, and then like a tiny bit of weed, and then like half a joint. And he became a felon because of that. And I watched him he's never been successful in life because of that. And you have to understand the root, that's where cannabis like came from. And seeing all these like big pharma and these, corporate types, even though I came from pharmaceutical sales myself, you don't want to see the industry overrun by, honestly, the corporate life like that, where they don't understand the culture or the roots. So I really hope that we're able to maintain that for the sake of what it is.
I think it's necessary. And in every show we talk about, I had somebody one time get on and say, everybody in the industry is passionate. I mean, Manny, come on, you've cried like a half dozen times on this show. I'm like, exactly. It is, right? And it's not about money. There's a lot of money in the industry, hands down. There's a lot of opportunity. It's not the gold or the green rush everybody thought it was going to be.
No.
Right? A few people probably made out well, and more lost their butts. And that's these big companies that they're down now. And so again, like I said, it kind of goes back to this boutique grow. Cannabis does well, and all of these big growers have done well because they create it's a craft. I shouldn't even call it boutique, but it's a craft grow. It's not the same as a commodity where industrial hemp is headed, right? I'm more of a commodity grow. And so same with you, it's very culture. Anytime you smoke or anytime I hear people or you see, even on the, like the stoner days and all of the ads, it's always puff, and it's not what other drug? It's very social. It's a community and a social activity, event, medicine, all of it, right? It allows you to be.
You got your weed from your friends in high school, right? Like there was that trust and that involvement that went along with it. And at the same time, we all understood that, we were helping each other with our, with medicine, I think too, in some way, even our little silly high school brains.
Well, and to be honest, I was so undereducated even until recently about what this plant does. I had no idea. And there really, until recently, hasn't been a place to go and figure it out. And so I commend you for everything you're doing. And I'm even more impressed by your background in pharmaceutical sales over to this industry, because it's something you can relate to. And it's what people know. Pharmaceuticals are what people know, right? Cannabis is unfamiliar. And the fact that you can relate on such an educated level it's freaking rad, Megan. It's awesome. So keep it up.
Dude, you're freaking awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. At the end of the day, I took a chance coming out with cannabis because I was like, there goes my pharmaceutical sales career. I don't think I can go back right now. I'm mainstream Mary Jane on Instagram. I have a cannabis leaf tattooed on my arm, but I'm so happy that I can't go back. So,
it's not going away. Cannabis is not going anywhere. And it's only becoming more and more mainstream and more dominant. And I think that by being mainstream Mary Jane is exactly where you should be. I mean, because it's something you're passionate about. And it's clearly something you've grown and done if your company's in as many I call them pharmacies, dispensaries. I'm going to leave Utah and people are going to be like, what are you talking about? She doesn't know anything about the industry. She calls them pharmacies.
Utah's getting there, though. You guys are going to go wreck before you know it.
You really think that it would?
Maybe. I mean, it's pretty,
Alcohol in the state of
Utah. Utah is so beautiful. I love so many places there. Zion, amazing, everywhere.
It's funny when people say, like when we were kids and we'd be like, hey, let's go up to the mountains, or we're going to go up and party, right? We're going to go out to the mountain. Now I go back to Wyoming and someone says, oh, we're going to go up to the mountains. I'm like, where are there mountains? There are not. Utah has mountains.
Yeah, for real.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's beautiful. But I think that our liquor laws are still controlled by the state. You can't sell liquor outside of the state liquor stores. And so I'm pretty sure that just knowing how regulated and how consistent that has been, until it is federally legal, I don't see it being open. They've found a way to keep it controlled. However, we voted, I think it was something like 70% in for the medical program. And so I think it is definitely a ask of our residents. They want the program. Where we struggle right now is there are only 8 licensees that are distributing. And so we only have our distribution channel is pretty broken. We just don't have the supply for the demand of number of patients that need more cannabis.
Right. And that's how we started too. It was a distribution chain issue. We have to use a third-party system in Nevada. So,
yeah.
Totally understand that. You guys will get there.
So I have a question. Earlier you said when we were offline how regulated Nevada is and that you are one of the most regulated states. Everybody I talk to, I shouldn't say everybody, but the majority of people that I talk to kind of laugh that Nevada is the most loosely regulated. That they, look, you can just go and buy whatever you want, wherever you want, whenever you want. That's not the case. What does that mean?
Well, I guess dispensaries are open, most of them 24 hours in this town, and we do have some of the biggest dispensaries in the world, that have been I call Vegas the window to the world of cannabis, because people from all over the world are coming here. They're touring these massive, huge dispensaries that have light shows, and they're interactive, and it's just next level insane. And they're open 24 hours. So yeah, you can buy cannabis anytime you want. But the process that cannabis goes through to get to your licensed dispensary, I mean, that's one thing. California, for instance, there's thousands of illegal dispensaries. Yeah. Thousands in the state. And in Nevada, there are zero. It's much too regulated here. The testing that the plants and the products have to go through is much more regulated than other states. And then we have this metric here. So we have everything is controlled by the police officers of the state. And there's cameras everywhere. Everyone's watching everything that we're doing every step of the way. They've been watching me go in and out of dispensaries for years now. But at the end of the day, I'm licensed and I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm selling licensed legal products. So
right,
they can do all they want.
Well, and that's what I like. And I think that that's what needs to be understood, right? Is when we're buying from a dispensary versus buying from the black market, it's a different product. It's a different quality of product. It's security in yourself, knowing you have a clean product, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of counterfeit stuff that goes on too. So watch that, because you might see a product that you've seen in dispensaries like, oh, this is a good product. And it's not the same product at all. It's been counterfeit. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and this is something that I've become kind of passionate about too, is the track and trace piece, because so many regulations are they're put in place to eliminate risk, right? Instead of having the solution, they put regulation and just say, okay, we can't sell that anymore because we can't figure out how to control it. We're going to stop it so that we prevent risk for people. Our consumers are not at risk that way. However, if we can get a track and trace or something in place so that we can identify that counterfeit, I think that that's a huge benefit. I've seen quite a few new technologies that are also in the pharmaceutical industry coming over to the cannabis industry to help with that. So you understand, drugs coming into the country are not always what we want to consume.
Right. Absolutely. And people have to understand that plant it's got its little metric tag on it from the time that it sprouts, and that it's literally its ID. And each one is individual, and it is tracked from the time it is sprouted all the way, whatever product it becomes, it carries that ID with it. Every time it leaves the lab to go to a testing, which it does multiple times during its life course before it becomes a product in the dispensary, and it's tracked that whole time by the system.
How does that work? Somebody's manually putting that in?
Yep. Yeah, you're logging onto the system and you're saying, hey, we're moving, 5 pounds of flour to the testing facility, but we know exactly what it is. And I mean, it's so regulated. You have to, know the name of the driver, the license plate of the car, every little detail is tracked.
Okay, so Anthony, maybe what happens for identification of black market products then? Is there anything? I want to share some cool technology that I'm aware of. And I'll reach out to you because I don't know if I can talk about it online yet, but something that would allow an invisible sort of identification, almost like an RFID tag, but that stays on the flower itself. What happens if I pull someone over and I have 2 types of flower, and one is a dispensary flower and in the system, and one is a black market from Oregon? There's no way right now currently to identify the difference in the flower other than a label that I or you could change, right?
That is true. It could be not the correct. It could be the label that didn't actually align to that plant product. But again, I would test it, because it's gonna, if it was that plant product, it would have the exact terpene profile of that plant product, the exact THC, things of that nature. And so I would just take it to a testing facility, and then if it didn't line up, you'd know it was false.
And everything that's within Nevada is in that system, and so that it would be easy then to identify.
Really easy, yeah, that it wasn't.
Interesting. That's great. That's really, really cool. Well, I really appreciate you having you on. I'd love to have you guys join our association or attend the association any way that I can help you guys. I'm down, so I'd love to stay in touch. And then next time, so where are you? Are you in Vegas?
I am, yes.
Okay, cool. Next time, I'll just have to come and make a trip, especially as the weather gets bad.
Come visit me, definitely. Yeah, would love to see you. Thank you so much for having me, Mandy. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on all of your success. And I'm so glad to see another female in cannabis that I went to high school with. Yay.
Yes. Now we just need to get more of
I know,
them.
right? Join the team, everybody.
Yeah. Other than that, you guys join our association, globalhempassociations.org. It has all the information on it. We are building a database on the back end that's really cool. Our members will be able to log in and share profiles, and then you'll be able to communicate and basically share and stream content based on channels within our platform. And so I'm really excited about it. Other than that, Megan, thank you very, very much. And we'll see everybody else tomorrow.
Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, thanks. We'll see you later. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.